This is CBC Here and Now.
A sudden death on Bell Island, and police are on the scene investigating.
Today, the investigation is actually being led by the RCMP Major Crimes Unit.
It all started with Snapchat, an app popular among teenagers where photos and text messages automatically disappear.
A former student testified today in the sexual exploitation trial of teacher Krista Grimes. Here and Now's Malone Mullen will have the latest.
For the last few months, it's been relentless.
Jim Dinn is facing pressure to take over the NDP full-time. The interim leader speaks with Peter Cowan about why he's not ruling it out. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. The RCMP Major Crimes Unit is investigating a sudden death on Bell Island that happened last night. Here and Now's Heather Gillis was in Wabana earlier today and has this report. Police are investigating here on number 2 Road in Wabana on Bell Island, and they're investigating at a place known as Pin's apartment. A neighbor tells CBC News that around 11 o'clock last night, they heard a commotion at the back of this building, and it sounded like someone had fallen or come down the stairs in some sort of manner. Sources also tell CBC News that the man who died is not from Bell Island, that he's not from this area. Here's what police had to say about their investigation into this sudden death so far a little earlier today.
Certainly all sudden deaths that we investigate are considered suspicious until proven otherwise. This one is no different than that. Today, the investigation is actually being led by the RCMP Major Crimes Unit. The RCMP General Investigation Section and Forensic Identification Services are also at the scene today to conduct the investigation, which will be done in consultation with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner.
Police were canvassing the area this afternoon and knocking on doors, and they were taking photos of the scene. The RCMP say they don't have any information to release about the deceased, like age or gender. Corporal Jolene Garland says police are conducting a thorough investigation to determine if any crimes were committed.
Secondly, now we are looking at the investigation itself and making sure that we are able to do our jobs thoroughly and properly and to gather any evidence that may continue or help us or assist us with the rest of the investigation.
Meanwhile, the RCMP is telling residents here on Bell Island to expect an increased presence here while their investigation is ongoing. They're also asking people to respect these boundaries here that they've put up and the police tape. They say there's no risk to public safety and that investigation is continuing. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Wabana. Now to the West Coast and an update on a story we reported earlier this week. The RNC says a constable who was convicted of assault has now been suspended without pay. Constable Noelle Late was suspended yesterday after she was convicted in Corner Brook Provincial Court on Wednesday. Late was accused of choking and beating her domestic partner over a 2-year period. The RNC says Late had been assigned to administrative duties pending the outcome of the court proceedings. She was found guilty of assault and assault causing bodily harm. Now to central Newfoundland. The RCMP Major Crimes Unit is providing an update on the string of crimes that happened in Campbellton last weekend. It started with a car crash in the early morning hours last Saturday. A woman then reported a man came to her house, forced his way inside, and assaulted her. Police say she then ran to a neighbor's house to get help just after 2:30 a.m. She then returned to find her home and vehicle on fire. The RCMP is now confirming that the 40-year-old deceased man who was found inside the residence died as a result of the fire, and he was the only person responsible for these crimes. The RCMP says there is no current risk to public safety. Well, a cabin owner in Middle Gull Pond helped police arrest 2 men suspected of breaking into his cabin. The owner contacted the Holyrood RCMP yesterday to say someone had forced the door open and a number of items had been taken. The owner then followed a suspicious ATV that drove by the property and had refused to pull over. The police in turn set up a roadblock. The 2 24-year-old men riding the ATV were found in possession of stolen property
property and were arrested. One was held in custody. He was charged with break and enter and possession of property obtained by crime. The other man showed signs of being impaired by drugs. While charges are still pending, his license was suspended and the ATV was seized and impounded. Now turning to the courts and a story that may not be appropriate for all viewers. Krista Grimes, former student, testified in the teacher's sexual exploitation trial today. The student alleges the two had sex in his car while he was underage. Here Now's Malone Mullen was in the courtroom, and as you'll hear, Grimes' lawyer pushed back hard against that testimony.
It all started with Snapchat, an app popular among teenagers where photos and text messages automatically disappear. In court today, the complainant said Grimes sometimes handed him her cell phone to play music during class. One of those days, he says, he added himself on her Snapchat as a joke. But the two started texting. Eventually, he alleges she sent explicit photos through that app. Later, they planned to meet in person. He said he picked her up in his car. They drove to a quiet location and had sex in his back seat. He said he then dropped her off at her car, and the two continued texting, but didn't meet again. However, when he returned to school after the summer break, he says he heard rumors about their alleged relationship and disclosed to close friends his account of their sexual encounter. Later, the school got an anonymous email detailing rumors about Grimes having sex with students. The complainant initially denied the allegations, but then later told officials and police his account. But defense lawyer Rosellen Sullivan suggested all of it was made up, a rumor he started to fit in with the cool kids, who already joked and gossiped about Grimes. Sullivan pointed out inconsistencies between his statement to police and his testimony. That included when and where the alleged contact happened, whether he told friends about it, and what sexual positions were used. Sullivan suggested the complainant took the photos off Grimes' cell phone and told his friends they were sent to him. She pointed out there was no hard evidence besides his testimony to suggest they did have sexual contact. The complainant said he may have misspoken or misremembered some of his statements, but maintains that the sexual contact happened the way he described. Grimes returns to Supreme Court on Monday when the defense will have a chance to call witnesses. Malone Mullen, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the messy weather has arrived. We've got some snow already falling, heavy on the west coast, parts of the south coast as well. And the reason for that is this area of low pressure and this warm front. It will be our weather maker for pretty much right through to Monday, and some significant weather associated with that as well. That snow moved in earlier today. We're right on the cusp of the rain at the moment, which means it's changing over pretty much right on time. But take a look at what's happening out there, especially on the west coast. Lots of snow-covered roads. In fact, there's some travel that's not recommended for parts of the west coast. So definitely, if you do not have to go out tonight, don't, because this is going to change over to rain. And take a look at these warnings. Winter storm warnings, freezing rain warnings, rainfall warnings, as well as those snowfall warnings. And then a wreckhouse wind warning in place at the moment, with special weather statements further east. Biggest concern, is in my books anyway, is the potential for the freezing rain. Here's a quick look. Look at that, 30 to 40 plus millimeters of freezing rain expected through Saturday. I'll break it all down for you coming up.
Wow, thanks, Ashley. Well, a shock this morning for some residents as furnace oil prices rose sharply across Newfoundland and Labrador overnight. In an unscheduled price adjustment by the Public Utilities Board, the cost on home heating has risen by nearly 20 cents per litre of oil. The board says its decision is because of a significant spike in the benchmark price for New York Harbor jet. Customers are now paying between $1.68 and $1.75 per litre across the island. Well, the problem province is looking to the other side of the Atlantic to help solve a shortage of doctors and nurses. The health minister is leading a mission to recruit healthcare workers in Ireland, a country that's facing its own health crisis. Thanks to immigration, Ireland's population is the highest it's been since the 1800s. It's also an aging population, but the number of hospital beds has not grown. A Dublin doctor and union rep fears what further outside recruitment might mean for his country.
We have a problem with patients coming into our emergency departments who are sick enough to be admitted to hospital, but there's no bed in the hospital to take them. So they are now waiting on sort of temporary beds or trolleys in the emergency departments, waiting for admission beds in hospital. Last year, out of about 750 doctors who graduated in Ireland, somewhere about 400 of them actually left to Australia. So we have a huge problem at the moment with younger junior doctors recruiting and going to Australia. Given that we actually have a current crisis in healthcare staffing within our own country, it is quite worrying that our doctors may be leaving us.
Meanwhile, the head of the province's medical association says recruiting from Ireland makes sense. There are cultural and professional parallels which might make Newfoundland and Labrador an attractive choice for Irish doctors. But Dr. Chris Luscombe says ultimately recruitment should begin here at home.
Memorial University is a world-class university, trains some of the best physicians in Canada and in the world. And so we have to definitely ensure that we are making Newfoundland a desirable place for those trainees from Newfoundland to want to work. Newfoundland's a great place to live. We're having a major difficulty convincing people it's a good place to work, in particular as a family physician.
Luscombe says the healthcare staffing shortage in this province is a massive problem, but says it's refreshing to see the health minister show an interest in improving compensation for family doctors, offer support for rural ERs, and develop an office for recruitment and retention. Well, there will be a delay in resuming baby deliveries at the hospital in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Soon-to-be moms have been transferred 500 kilometers away to Labrador City since mid-December because of a lack of nurses. The service was expected to return to normal today, but Labrador Grenfell Health says it will continue for another 10 days. Medevac patients from coastal Labrador will also continue to be flown to a health center other than the one in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Well, the PCMHA has asked for a formal investigation into the Premier's visit to a fishing lodge. Today, Barry Penton asked the Commissioner for Legislative Standards to look into the trip. The lodge is owned by John Risley, who's a friend of Andrew Furey's. He's also behind a large wind-to-hydrogen project that's proposed for the West Coast. Penton says an investigation is needed to make sure that trip didn't violate the rules.
Take Mr. Furey's name off that door. Whoever's occupying that office got to have a better standard than what we're seeing now. And if Ms. Chief comes back and says everything was fine, well, okay, well, we'll live with that. If she comes back and says it wasn't fine, I just want answers, Peter. I just want this investigated properly, and not me being the one constantly trying to, get answers, because I never did get answers.
Meanwhile, the Premier insists he paid for the trip personally, and it happened on his own time. Now to the West Coast, it's been 16 months since a plan was announced to sell the Stephenville Airport, and there's still no deal in place. But this week, the airport was thrown another financial lifeline. Here now's Troy Turner reports.
Stephenville Town Council is continuing to keep its airport running as the process to sell the facility drags on. At this week's public meeting, Council voted to give another $50,000 to the airport. In a news conference, Ottawa businessman Carl Diamond announced plans to acquire the airport. That was in September of 2021, but the transaction still hasn't closed. Officials say fallout from a 2005 insolvency proceeding at the airport is holding things up. A few weeks ago, in late December, Council said a deal was imminent.
The acquisition process is currently underway and expected to be finalized any day.
Nothing was announced after that. Lenny Tiller is one of two councillors who are opposing another handout this week.
When I started to vote no in June, it was all about cost recovery. We don't have that yet. And as we've learned, it's hard to get that in the way that our legislation is set up. I'll add to that, if we had a definitive date tonight, I would vote yes. But we don't have either one of those things. Unfortunately, I wish we could say we had one or the other. And if we had one or the other, I'd say yes. Unfortunately, we don't have either one. So tonight I'm going to respectfully vote no. And I do hope and pray, like the rest of you, this comes to an end very soon.
Councillors in favor of the grant framed their support around the importance of the airport to health care.
To me, as a taxpayer and a councillor, you can't put a price on somebody's life. So to me, air ambulance means everything to a lot of the taxpayers here in this town. So I vote yes on the airport.
I'm there to the point where I think I feel like this is going to be the last bit of money. And that's why I am so much for it.
Carl Diamond's plans for the airport include a manufacturing facility for giant futuristic drones, as well as the return of scheduled passenger service. He said investors are waiting in the wings to help make his dreams for this airport become a reality. He has declined to name those investors. Troy Turner, CBC News, Stephenville.
A St. John's business owner and strong advocate of the sealing industry has died. Bernie Halloran owned Always in Vogue on Water Street in St. John's. The store specializes in furs and sealskin products. A Facebook post from the business today called him a fearless leader who will be missed. Halloran often spoke out against anti-fur and sealskin campaigns launched by celebrities like Pamela Anderson and Paul McCartney. Former Premier Danny Williams says Halloran was a close friend. He called him a champion of the industry who will be remembered for his kindness and huge heart. Halloran was 67 years old.
After COVID-19 shut down their last season, the Newfoundland Rogues and their mascot Peter Easton are back. The season kicks off next Friday. We'll have all the details coming up.
Well, it looks like the snow is in the process of changing to rain. This is just the start. There is a lot more rain in the forecast. I'll get into the details coming up.
Okay, before we get to the complicated weather forecast, residents of Dildo, what you're about to see may offend you slightly.
Yeah, this week on Jimmy Kimmel Live, the talk show host's wife started cleaning out his office and giving away some of Jimmy's treasures. Well, see for yourself.
I'm going to ask you a question, and if you win it, I'm sorry, you're going to go home with this fisherman with the word dildo on it.
Now hold on a second. That's Richie, that's my town. I am the honorary mayor of Dildo, Newfoundland, and they sent that to me as a gift because I am their leader.
Jimmy, no one's doubting that you're the mayor of Dildo, okay?
And that's about all we can really share on Supper Time TV, but needless to say, that contestant did walk away with that statue.
Yeah, I hope Richie from Chicago takes good care of that Newfoundland keepsake.
Pretty funny.
Awesome.
I guess you need to like do some stretches and stuff, get ready for this weather forecast. There's so much to talk about this weekend.
Yeah, it's not even the amount of weather, it's just how long this, this duration is. We're talking about 3 days of weather for a good chunk of the island. So let's just hop right into it. Here's the temperatures for today. Last day of cold temperatures for at least say the Avalon along the south coast. -4 today in St. John's. It is going to feel like spring this weekend. And then up across Labrador, we do have some of those cold temperatures still in place into the minus teens and about -8 in Cartwright this afternoon. So here's a look at what's going on. Big area of low pressure bringing a mess of weather to the maritime provinces. Anything south of this warm front here is falling as rain. Anything along the warm front is either freezing rain or ice pellets. And then north of that, colliding with this cold air, we've got lots of snow, which is already wreaking some havoc on the west coast. So if you do not have to travel tonight, it's a good idea not to, because this snow is heavy at times. But you can see, as far as the satellite radar picture is concerned, it's starting to change over to rain, and this will continue to do so. We're looking at this heavy snow changing over to heavy rain for a good chunk of the night, and then continuing right through Saturday along the south coast. Here's your temperatures. So note 2 to 4 degrees, but they are going to skyrocket as we head to the morning hours. -3 in Gander for Grand Falls, Windsor. This is your low now, but by the time we get into tomorrow morning, we're talking about temperatures between 9 to 10 degrees above zero, and then a cold night yet again for Labrador, -35 in Lab City, and you're looking at some quiet weather. Most of the action will fall for southeastern Labrador, where we'll see some snow. Now, as far as that snowfall accumulation goes, this takes us through to Sunday afternoon. There will be more in the wake of this, but at this point, we're looking at between 10 to 15 centimeters of snow falling before that changes over to rain for the west coast, parts of central. North of that, into the northern peninsula and the Long Range Mountains, we could be seeing those accumulations again, somewhere between 20 to 40 centimeters. In the higher elevations, that will likely be more. And this should stay all as snow for you. South of that will be rain. So let's just time this out. Here we go for now. We'll start to see that transition, like I said, over to rain. It'll likely stay as snow in the higher elevations for the next couple of hours, but certainly by the time we get into midnight, most of us along the south coast and eastern Newfoundland should be into that rain. Northern Peninsula, you will be on the cold side of that. Tomorrow morning, this will all change over to rain, and that's again because those temperatures will be significantly milder, between 10 to 11 degrees. And then this colder air pushes further south, and then we start talking about the potential for freezing rain. 6 to 12 hours or more of freezing rain expected, especially through the day on Saturday. Here's the amounts. We could be talking about 40 to 60 millimeters. Now, depending on the track, this could shift. This may not be exactly where the heaviest rainfall or freezing rain falls, but at this point, 40 to 60 millimeters is certainly possible. If it falls heavy, it may not accumulate too much, but if it's a lighter rain, it could lead to extended power outages. So this is certainly the greatest concern, I'd say, with this system. Definitely keep that in mind. Prepare. That's the best thing you could do, and hopefully we don't have to, but prepare for extended power outages if you fall in those areas. Now, as far as we go into Saturday night into Sunday, this will be a heavy rain event along the south coast in eastern Newfoundland, and will continue as we head into Sunday morning, and then that freezing rain potential shifts east. So then we're going to talk about the potential for Grand Falls, Windsor, Gander, potentially Clarenville, seeing that potential for some freezing rain through the day on Sunday. But again, most of eastern Newfoundland, or the Avalon, I should say, should stay as rain. As far as those rainfall amounts are going, along the south coast, 130 plus millimeters certainly possible by the time we get into Sunday afternoon. Further east, including here in the metro area, we could be talking about 20 to as much as 40 millimeters falling into Monday. So this will continue, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the province's lone professional basketball team is about to kick off its second season less than a year after their first season was cut short due to COVID. Well, today the team announced a huge signing. The Newfoundland Rogues unveiled its roster, which includes the son of a former NBA All-Star. Here now's Jeremy Eaton has that story.
The guy that everybody was waiting for who we signed. Very excited. You know, me, Stacy, and Tony worked really hard on this, and, you know, we're happy to have him on the island. Some of you guys had a glimpse of it. We didn't have anything done until just recently.
With that, Ron Artest III made his way to center stage. The 6'7", 23-year-old only landed in St. John's last night, fresh from Los Angeles.
I'm feeling good. It's just cold out here. You know, I need to turn the heaters on out here. I'll be fine.
Great shot clock for Artest. Artest is the son of Meta Sandiford Artest, also known as Ron Artest Jr., a former NBA All-Star. His father played for 18 seasons, winning a championship with the Lakers in 2010. Rumors of his arrival started over the summer, thanks to this tweet.
My agent told me I should come down here. You know, I trust her, so wherever she sends me, I'm going.
Artest's agent is Mount Pearl's very own Stacy Leewood. The former assistant coach with the Rogues has become a full-time player agent. The signing is a big win for the team that hasn't played a game in a little less than a year.
It's exciting for everybody around. You know, I'm excited for him to come in and prove to himself, and, you know, hopefully next year he's in the G League or in the NBA, because I know that's his goal. You know, and I'm excited to be the guy that's able to push him to get to that level.
But Artest is just one of 12 players, all of them looking to make an impact at the Mary Brown Center. Former Memorial University player Daniel Gordon is looking to pick up where the last version of the Rogues left off.
I'm really excited because we have really unfinished business. Last year we were undefeated. We had a lot of support behind us. We had the ball rolling. But I feel like we're bringing that energy back into this year. I do feel really excited about this season. I think we're going to do a lot of good things.
Unlike Gordon, most players are not used to the cold here, but Coach Williams says there's an easy fix.
Bring your jackets. I mean, it's cold. It's not like we're sitting outside every day. I'll make sure you get warm in the gym. Don't worry. Bring your jacket till you get to the gym. Once we get here, I promise you, you'll sweat.
The team only has 1 week left to prepare as the Newfoundland Rogues season openers at the Mary Brown Center next Friday. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
It's about putting people first, making sure that people often who don't have a voice have a clear voice and influence in this province.
Looking at the year to come, talking leadership and healthcare, a special one-on-one with NDP leader Jim Dinn is just ahead. When Jim Dinn agreed to take over the leadership of the provincial NDP almost 2 years ago, he didn't expect to be in the position this long. But as he looks ahead to 2023, his perspective has changed. Here he is discussing the year ahead with our Peter Cowan.
Well, Jim Dinn, Happy New Year, and thanks for sitting down.
Happy New Year, Peter.
I want to start with healthcare, because it's on a lot of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians' minds. I think we all kind of understand the problems. It's the solutions and how to fix it where there seems to be, I guess some work to be done. When you look at all the things the province has done, we're off recruiting in Ireland and India. We've rolled out incentives to try and get people to come here. We're working with licensing to try and make it easier for the folks once they get here. What do you think the province isn't doing that it could and should be doing to try and address the problems we're seeing right now in healthcare?
Recruiting is definitely an important part. But I'll go an editorial that was written by Yvette Coffey about how nurses, and she's speaking to nurses about the need to be respected and about the access to leave, the elimination of the mandated 24-hour overtime, you name it. I think if anything else, it's great to be talking about how the lifestyle here in Newfoundland is fantastic, that the housing is cheaper, but at the end, there's got to be an affirmation to whoever recruiting that things are going to be different, that the reasons we're that they're making them dissatisfied in their system are going to be addressed. We're going to do things differently.
I want to ask you a bit about your job. Some people may forget that you took this over on an interim basis, but it's been quite a while now that you've been in this job. You're starting as the year as leader. Do you think you're going to finish 2023 as the leader?
Oh my, I will tell you, when I took on this job, it was with the clear assumption that that somehow along the line we would have a court case, there would be a leadership convention, and my role would be supportive. But I will be honest with you, and I know what's going to happen after this airs tonight. Every time I have an interview on this, I get a plethora of calls from people who want me to drop the interim title, and they're concerned. And there are people from within the party and outside the party whose opinion I respect. I can tell you, it's been, for the last few months, it's been relentless. But there are a lot of decisions to be made in that one long before I'm swayed otherwise.
But it sounds like you're warming up to the idea, because when you went in, it was like, no, this is just, I'll keep the seat warm until we figure this out.
And I'm going to keeping the seat warm. It's going to be up to the party at some point to call an election or a leadership convention. But like I said, I will just, if nothing else, so I can make sure that I don't get the people who are concerned that I'm somehow stepping down or stepping away from the party. I can tell you that I got a lot of decisions made, and you know as well as I do what the decisions that are going to be involved with that, if anything.
So I guess, what is it that you're going to make the decision based on, about whether or not you decide to put your name forward?
Oh, I think, I never had political ambitions, I guess, in many ways. I'll be honest, I had a lot of, I had Jerry Rogers I blame for this in many ways, because I had a lot of deep respect for that lady, for that person. And what I enjoy most about this job is the ability to be in a position, to use your position, to use my position to actually help an individual. So it's a lot more than Jim Dinn MHA has a little bit more sway than Jim Dinn private citizen, and I guess Jim Dinn interim leader has a little bit more sway than Jim Dinn MHA. So there's definitely that would be I guess that that whole thing, whether it comes down to work-life balance and things that are important to everyone. And I've got grandchildren myself, so I'm trying to manage all, keep them in the loop and my own family commitments.
So if you do decide to run, I feel like the slogan will be, fine, I'll put my name forward. And
oh no. If I can tell you one thing, if anyone who knows me, if I make any decision, there's never half measures. That's the problem. I guess my commitment is I do nothing by halves. It's all in or nothing. That much is for certain. There's no, well, he couldn't get anyone else. I'll step up. It won't be that. It'll be a case of no. If I make that decision, I can promise you, it's 110% commitment.
Whoever ends up being the next NDP leader, whether it's you or someone else through the course of this year, what do you think the biggest issue is that they're going to have to address?
And that's a good point, because in the end, whether I'm interested or not, it's going to come down to what the people of the party want. And that's the key thing. I can tell you, I've been asked one. What do I think? I think when it comes to, regardless of, I guess, who the leader is, it's about making sure we build a party so that we have a stronger voice for the people who do call in, looking to have their to address some serious issues around healthcare, housing, affordability. It's about from in everything I've done, I guess, whether it's volunteering with not-for-profits, it's about putting people first and making sure that people often who don't have a voice have a clear voice and influence in this province, so that we're not just simply benefiting those who have deep pockets, those who kind of, who are behind, let's say, the Rothschild report as an example, the people who might be looking to make some quick investments and to buy up public goods. I'm looking at the people on the ground, at the people who call me, who are facing, well, who are basically into emergency shelter or not sure if they're going to be able to have a place to live, or whether the local bank doors are locked, so they have no place in shelter, or the family who's calling me and have just lost their job, or and they're afraid about losing their home, or you name it. That's got to be the priority.
Well, Jim Dinn, thanks for coming in. You've got a lot on your plate for this year. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, how's this as a way to unwind after a long week? A woman in Fredericton has committed to a daily dip in a lake, river, or pond, no matter the weather. She started her new routine in November and plans to keep it going. This week, our CBC cameras tagged along.
Hi, my name is Jenny Spinney, and I have been jumping in cold water for the last few months. I come to the lake or wherever I can find open water and submerge myself for up to 10 minutes to feel good, as strange as it sounds. I prefer to do it alone. It is very peaceful. As strange as that sounds, I usually will face like the woods if I can and just, I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but it's a very peaceful feeling once you just relax and are calm and you just focus on one thing. You're in the water and you're focused on that. Morning swims, even though like I hadn't eaten, and I don't know if it's because I was rested or what, but my morning swims, I found I could stay in longer. I used to time them all, it was interesting, right? Now I just kind of go till I'm like, okay, I feel a little cold, I'll get out. I'm sure it looks ridiculous, but it until you've done it. And like I got off work at 4 and came here, and I had the busyness of the day in my head and rush. Right now, I just feel amazing. And that's what I have to do to get there.
Well, rescuers are searching for survivors a day after a massive storm system ripped through several southern U.S. states, spawning dozens of tornadoes. At least 9 people have been killed in Alabama and neighboring Georgia. Officials expect that number to climb. The twisters left widespread wreckage behind across parts of Alabama. Hundreds of homes destroyed or seriously damaged, roofs ripped off, trees uprooted, strong winds knocked out power for tens of thousands of people. At least 35 possible tornadoes touched down across several states. Substantial damage is being reported in Selma. These images capture the moment one of the twisters barreled into the historic city. Alabama, where the majority of deaths occurred, declared a state of emergency in hard-hit counties. Well, Robbie Bachman, the drummer of the famed Canadian rock band Bachman Turner Overdrive, has died. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, Let It Ride, Taking Care of Business. They were among BTO's string of hits in the 1970s. The band formed after Robbie's brother, Randy, split from the Guess Who. Robbie was just 18. Dissension eventually broke BTO apart, but its success ultimately led to the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Robbie credited that success to leaving the 1960s social upheavals behind. He said the songs never told people what to do, just to have a good time. Robbie Bachman was 69. Well, 1909 to 2023. Those were the dates on a Vancouver memorial last Friday for Shige Minishiba, who lived to the incredible age of 113. Her life journey crossed not just a century, but half the globe. The CBC's Liam Britton has her story.
In her 113 years, Shige Minishiba witnessed wars, technological and social change, and the lives of countless family members begin and end. Still living in Vancouver is her daughter, 82-year-old Kyoko.
She always believed in achievement. Achievement, if you try hard, you'll be number one.
Shige was born on a farm near Nagoya, Japan in 1909.
There was 8 different type of fruit tree in her farmyard. orange, peach, oh yeah, anything.
She finished high school and worked, including in insurance. She married, and she and her husband adopted baby Kyoko. Kyoko moved to Toronto in the late 1960s. Shige and her husband joined her on the move to Canada. Shige and Kyoko then moved to Vancouver. For the last 20 years or so, they've lived in this Mount Pleasant condo. A number of newspapers and online resources say that at the time of her death, Shige was Canada's oldest person. Now, there's no official body that confirms this, but still, 113 years is no small feat. How is it that some people live this long? Dr. Roger Wong is an expert on geriatric medicine. He says genetics are part of the answer, but long-lived people tend to exercise, eat well, and have plenty of social outlets.
Healthcare professionals, what we try to work towards is helping, supporting individuals in the community to live not only for longer, but leading meaningful lives. And I think that is the important piece.
Kyoko says for her mom, an attitude of appreciation was important.
And she always thank me. Arigato. When the community nurse comes in, she goes, arigato, arigato, and then she goes, that's a prayer.
And don't forget a cup of matcha tea every morning, not too hot.
See, it's not bitter.
No. Liam Britton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Let's find out who's celebrating. Wishing Hubert and Gertrude Ralph of Jackson's Arm a happy 57th anniversary. Anniversary greetings going out to Ivy and Bernie Benoit. It's their 50th. Happy 57th anniversary to Eugene and Lorraine Bowen of St. Mary's. Congratulations to Eileen and Jack Keogh of Redhead Cove, who are also marking 50 years of marriage. Happy 66th anniversary to Herb and Viola Hewitt from Cormac. Happy 60th anniversary to Bert and Marilyn Russell in St. John's. Congratulations to Ivan and Ruth Bowers in Middle Arm, who are celebrating 50 years of marriage. Happy 59th anniversary to Jean and Bryce Thompson from Point Leamington. Wishing Ted and Phyllis Pilgrim of Goose Bay a happy 57th anniversary. Happy 52nd anniversary to Ron and Mert Harnham of Heart's Delight, Islington. Happy 58th anniversary to Phyllis and Ron Peddle of Chance Cove. Congratulations to Austin and Edith Patey from River of Ponds. It's their 68th anniversary. Happy 70th anniversary to Melvin and Lena Grandy of Garnish. Now to some birthdays. Happy birthday to Sterling Freak from Appleton, who's turning 91. Birthday greetings going out to Robert Chalk of Charlottetown, Bonavista Bay. It's his 93rd birthday. Wishing Lily Penny a very happy 95th birthday. Happy 92nd birthday to Mabel Curlew of Lewisport. Gladys Hussey on Bell Island is celebrating her 94th birthday. Happy 92nd birthday to Elfrida Butler in Kelligrews. Happy birthday to John Bromley of Conch, who just turned 91. Wishing Marie Pennell in Witless Bay a happy 91st birthday. Happy 90th birthday to Evelyn War of Robert's Arm. Alma Bungie of Grand Bank is celebrating her 92nd birthday. Happy birthday to Margaret Bennett, who just turned 90. Wishing Maud Strobridge of Corner Brook a happy 94th birthday. Birthday greetings going out to Elizabeth Purchase of Norris Arm. It's her 93rd birthday. Happy birthday to Ron Billard in St. John's, who's celebrating his 91st. Happy 96th birthday to Rose Casey in St. John's, and happy 94th birthday to Mildred Daw in Gander. Lots of weather to talk about, Ashley, but there was something you mentioned earlier that I feel like bears repeating with this storm that's coming through on the weekend, and that's all the freezing rain in Central and the effect it could have on power, and for people to, just to be prepared just in case. Yeah, it's always a good idea, especially when we're talking about 6 to 12 hours of potential freezing rain, and then how much falls, 40 to 60 millimeters, but it will very much depend on how fast it falls, because if the faster it falls, it doesn't really have time to stick to things, right? You get that accretion when it's very light, which is why, like, freezing drizzle earlier, in the year we saw the freezing drizzle on the south along the strait there. So that's the situation. And I guess temperature shifts too. And that's what's going to happen, right? That line's going to meander. Let's just take a look at what's going to happen as we head into Saturday evening and Sunday. So you can see that line meandering, and it's going to head further south as we head into Sunday afternoon. So now we're talking about the potential for some freezing rain further east, Gander, Clarenville, those areas, maybe even Bonavista. It does look like the Avalon should stay as rain, and that's because temperatures are going to stay mild, and they're going to stay mild for 5 days, it looks like at this point. So here's your Saturday evening. Things should taper off on the west coast as well as the northern peninsula, likely just some cloudy skies. All of the action will be through Central and again along the south coast. So there it is, Sunday, 11 degrees in St. John's, same thing for Marystown, but once you get towards Central, those temperatures are hovering around the 0-degree mark, hence that potential for some freezing rain. Quiet across a good chunk of Labrador, and cold, but some sunshine through the day, and then that rain continuing again along the south coast for Port aux Basques. This is also when we'll see the heaviest rain for eastern Newfoundland, so expect that through the day. And then as we head into Sunday evening and into Monday, now everything starts to lift further north again. So again, we're looking at that potential for some freezing rain through Central. More snow moves in for the northern peninsula. Then you'll get into the potential for some ice pellets and freezing rain, and that potential will head towards the strait
and then eventually southeastern Labrador. As we head into the evening hours on Monday, that's when we'll get into the risk of some ice pellets and maybe even some freezing rain for the Happy Valley Goose Bay region. Otherwise, temperatures into the single digits, but on the plus side of the mercury for a good chunk of the island. And then Labrador again, at least the west and the north, you're looking at sunshine and your temperatures between -7 and about -19 through the day. Now the long range forecast well above zero for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, and overnight lows as well. So we're not really moving much, and then it does look like showers right through to Wednesday. Now for central Newfoundland, you're looking at that warm up as well. 8 degrees on Tuesday, Wednesday 3 degrees, and then for western Newfoundland, continuing to see these mild temperatures, a little bit more snow potentially in the forecast as those temperatures dip for western Newfoundland later on in the evening on Wednesday. Now, as far as Labrador is concerned, at least the east, Tuesday and Wednesday, a really big warm up. And again, that's because that system will track further north. So we're looking at the potential for some rain and or freezing rain, I should say, and some ice pellets in the mix as well. Western Labrador, this will be a snow event for you, or at least some flurries, but temperatures mild for you as well. Just before we leave you tonight, had to share this great shot. This is Portugal Cove, coastal beauty, as Kim put it. Thank you so much for that shot. If you have any weather photos, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
It is a beauty photo for sure. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on this Friday evening. Have a safe weekend. Hope to see you on Monday.
Good night.